Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome to my weekly podcast number 54. This time we are going to be talking about how to maintain serenity when living in toxic times.
Dory, are we presently in what you would call toxic times right now in human history, particularly here in the United States?
Absolutely, without a shadow of doubt, we are in a period of extreme toxic times, not just here in the United States, but throughout the world. And, of course, as we've spoken before, we are now in this 21st century so tuned into everything that is happening on every continent and every country and with peoples all over the world that we have access on a regular basis what is happening in the way of genocide and war and destruction and hatred and rage and the ravaging of the earth and the lack of respect for earthly beings. And then to add to that, here in the United States at this particular time, we are in the throes of a very heated and challenging political period, which is putting so many things in our face that make the toxicity something that we're having to work with on a daily basis, if not even a moment-to-moment basis, to keep ourselves fresh and free of all of that toxic energy. And, so serenity is really the core of these conversations. And how do we, so the question is, how do we maintain this state of serenity that we're choosing to achieve or attempt to achieve? And at the same time be in the midst of all of this toxicity. And, so last week I talked about, meditation, shamanic journeying, the serenity prayer. Those are all great tools that can assist each of us to get through life, period, but also to get through this particularly challenging time that we're living in and living through right now.
Why are these times more toxic than other times in recent history?
Right now, I believe that there is a heightened awareness of toxicity. And as a result, we who are striving to maintain serenity and balance in our lives are acutely aware of the hatred and the divisiveness that is happening not just in our country but throughout the world. And so, have there been other toxic times in human history? Absolutely. I mean, we only have to look back to, the Civil War, slavery in this country, periods of of World War II, the Nazis, the World War I, the Spanish-American War, the Revolutionary War. This has been like amazing toxic times in our history. And what is true, as I said in last week's podcast, is that those toxic times we were a little bit more insulated from the big picture. And just in the last 10 years, the advent of social media and the immediacy of news and information about what is happening globally is, I believe, feeding the toxicity because we all have access to it instantly and are being bombarded with images and information and words that tie us into what is happening not just in our own little world, within our home or within our town or within our state, but our country and the entire globe. So, toxicity is not new to our times, but it is being experienced, I believe, by the average person on a much more continual and very deep and sometimes in a very caustic kind of way.
In your shamanic opinion, what makes the energy of a place or a person toxic?
I believe we've spoken before about how thoughts create energy and how words create energy. And so toxicity in the atmosphere occurs because people are engaged in either language or thoughts that are incredibly hateful, rageful, filled with spitefulness, attitudes of separation rather than attitudes of embracing oneness, of seeing how we all are truly the same, that everybody, regardless of who they are and what their personal struggles are, they're all individuals and all are deserving of respect and reverence and regard, personal regard, and so what creates a place, a place can become very toxic when people gather in that place and are infusing it with an energy of hatred, ragefulness, divisiveness, separation. I don't like these people because of that, and I don't like those people because they are not as good as me, or I don't like them because of the color of their skin, or I don't like them because they're poor, or I don't like them because they're smarter than me, or any of that toxic energy builds up over time. So if it's prevalent within someone's home, or it's prevalent within someone's general area that they live in, then it creates a toxic energy within that place. One can see that in some of the political meetings that are happening around the United States right now, where an energy of separation, of leaving certain kinds of people out of our hearts and out of our sphere of being equal or being okay. That ragefulness, that anger that has built up, builds in a space, an auditorium, or even an outdoor meeting place, to a place where it becomes infectious, and one person's anger and rage then spills over into another person, and that builds and builds and builds. So toxicity is something that is as infectious as love. It's like, or smiling. How can you not smile when you're in the presence of a smiling baby, right? It becomes infectious. It's like, oh, look, there's a moment of joy. There's a moment of ecstasy. There's a moment of pure love. And we embrace that and we join in with it. So toxicity is the same kind of thing. When we're in the presence of rage or hatred or a sense of separation, then we create that energy and we deposit it either in a place or with a group of people.
You alluded to the current political environment in the United States. What about a movement or a political or armed uprising? What characterizes those as toxic rather than beneficial, and who gets to characterize that truth?
Yeah, that's a really good question, particularly the part about who gets to characterize that truth. And that so much is about, who we are as individuals and how we perceive the world. And, for instance, there are some people whose perception of the world is that it's okay to kill another human being or to strike another human being because they believe that that is a way of controlling what they choose in life rather than what somebody else is choosing. And so it's a very, very slippery slope to go to that place of saying, okay, what these people are doing is okay and what those people are doing is okay. And what it really all comes down to is who amongst us can sit in judgment of the rightness or the wrongness of it. Personally, I gauge what I feel is okay and what is not okay with how it resonates in my heart, how it sits in my heart. And so if I am viewing people who are using violence as a means of expressing their opinion or their feelings about something, that doesn't resonate with me, and so I feel out of harmony with it in my heart. Whereas if a group of people are coming together and chanting and marching in a very peaceful way without harming one another or destroying property, then that resonates with my heart in a very peaceful way, and that is the direction that I would much more likely resonate with. However, one can pose the argument that none of us is here as an individual to judge what another person or another group of people are choosing to do to express themselves. On the other hand, I have to also say that there are values which we as humans most commonly embrace, and that is, a civility amongst ourselves, a way of disagreeing without violence, a way of expressing ourselves using words, much like, if you've observed any parent who is working with a toddler or, a youngster, they often try to intervene with a child who is, throwing toys around or, punching their little brother or kicking the cat by saying, I know you're having feelings, use your words. The same is true for humans. If we use our words more and express what we're truly feeling rather than using violence or hitting one another, punching one another, or advocating violence, then we have a much greater chance as a community of humans to achieve that place that I'm talking about here, which is serenity, a place of inner peace and harmony, and a place where all beings come together and experience the oneness of who we are. Not everyone who's a person on the earth right now is in agreement with this view of mine, and it is a struggle. It's a constant struggle for me and for many to stay in a place of accepting what is and not judging it, while at the same time holding on to one's own truth.
This completes our prepared questions on defining toxic times. Is there anything else you would like to add for this episode?
No, I feel complete about this and looking forward to our next week's topic, which has to do a lot more with anger and fear and so forth.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life. We hope to have you join us next time.